closing to the plenary session. And then after the plenary, we have the ECOSOCC secretariat who shall do us the honor of closing the East Africa region e-Caravan. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear panelists and participants, welcome to the e-Caravan. The theme of the e-Caravan is the Amnesty Month for the surrender and collection of illicit small arms and light weapons in the continent as a gateway to silencing the guns in Africa. This is a critical action because it is towards implementation of the roadmap that our Peace and Security Chairperson, Mr. NGOMAT, will tell us more in his welcoming remarks. So I take this honor to welcome Mr. Rolf Stefano NGOMAT, the Chairperson, Peace and Security Cluster, AU-ECOSOCC, to give us his welcoming remarks. Welcome, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, my brother John. Excellency, Mr. the Presiding Officer of ECOSOCC, Excellency, Madam Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs of Kenya, Excellencies, Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. First of all, allow me to say that it's a great pleasure to be here with you today to participate in the continuation of the e-Caravan of Peace after North and Central Africa. The e-Caravan is in East Africa, and to welcome you all to this webinar. Allow me to extend my sincere thanks to all of you for your presence here today to discuss on subjects of greater importance to East Africa. As we all know, the month of September of each year is proclaimed as the month of African Amnesty. It is in this perspective that the Peace and Security Cluster of the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council of the African Union, whose I have the honor to chair, launched the e-Caravan of Peace for the entire month of September, under the theme, Month of Amnesty for the Surrender and Collection of Illicit Arms and Light Weapons, a gateway to silencing the guns in Africa, with a main outcome to enhance understanding and awareness by African citizens and civil society organizations about the Amnesty Month, the AU Team of the Year on Silencing the Guns, and the General African Union Framework on Peace and Security. And secondly, to increase commitment of AU member states to full adherence and promotion of the African Amnesty Month, including an increased engagement of civil society stakeholders. Thirdly, to enhance participation of African citizens and government officials in the African Union flagship program on silencing the guns. And finally, to draft a policy report on outlining achievement and recommendation from the e-Caravan of Peace prepared for submission to the Peace and Security Council and the African Union Head of States and Government Summit. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, despite the progress made in pacifying and stabilizing the continent, our challenge remains significant, such as terrorism and other forms of cross-border crime, including arms trafficking and the illicit proliferation of small arms and light weapons. In front of security challenges, our first duty is to ensure that our state remains strong and resilient, both in the prevention and the reaction capacity. But this fight also engages the action of civil society through education in a culture of peace and respect for diversity. CSO should help build the first rampart against the manipulation of conscience. We must also continue the fight for awareness raising through education and training. Ladies and gentlemen, AU-ECOSOCC Peace and Security Cluster would like to launch a strong call for a lasting ceasefire in all conflict zones in East Africa in order to give a real chance to dialogue and negotiation. It's also necessary to stress that Africa must be a stakeholder in the research of solution of peace in all conflict zones in Africa. I therefore take the opportunity of our meetings today to salute the appreciable effort that the African Union has continued to deploy with a view to helping a peaceful, consensual, and lasting peace solution in East African region, such as the normalization of the situation in the Great Lake region through the application of the agreement concluded under the auspice of the African Union. Also, the significant progress in peace and reconciliation in South Sudan, a positive stabilization against terrorism in Somalia, and the significant success of African mediation in Sudan, which opened the way to a peaceful and consensual democratic transition in this country. This panorama of peace in Africa highlight, without any doubt, certain undeniable success story toward a peaceful and conflict-free Africa. However, this significant progress must not hide from us their weakness and especially the gray areas which continue to tarnish the light. More need to be done in the implementation of the protocol on illicit drugs trafficking and on small arms and light weapons management program. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we all agreed that peace and security are prerequisite to social and economic development within the community and vital to the achievement of the objectives of the community. Let's all put our effort to achieve the Africa we want toward an integrated, peaceful, and prosperous Africa. In conclusion, I would like to express our solidarity to all the countries which are victims of terrorism and instability. I declare open the webinar of East Africa for the Amnesty month of September for the surrender and collection of illicit arms in Africa. I thank you.
Thank you so much, the Chairperson, Peace and Security Cluster AU-ECOSOCC, for that very enriching remarks and about the e-Caravan. I think now most of the participants have gotten to understand about the origin and the roots of the e-Caravan on peace and where we are headed to in all the 5 regions of Africa with this caravan. It is my pleasure now also to welcome the keynote address by the presiding officer, AU-ECOSOCC, Mr. Denise Kodhe. Karibu na hiyo.
Thank you very much, John. Your Excellencies, Madam CSC, my colleagues, good afternoon and good morning. I know we have participants who are now still in the morning hours, and as we are already in the afternoon session. Also, I can see my PO Emeritus, who is part of us. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and it's nice to see you, my brother Richard. Before I make my opening remarks, I want to welcome you all to this very important panel, this very important discussion, because we are talking about peace and security of our continent. And I'm happy that today is the day for the East African region. If all of us were speaking Kiswahili, I would have been very happy for us to speak in Kiswahili. The other point is that I'm very happy that the government of Kenya is here with us. And thank you very much, my sister, NADIA ABDALLAH. For those who do not know her, she's the youngest in the administrative level. And these are the future leaders that we are looking forward to in Kenya. And you can see that Kenya is really promoting youth participation in leadership. I want to say something about ECOSOCC. ECOSOCC, the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council organ. This is an organ of the African Union which is mandated to coordinate the participation of the citizen. And when I talk about citizens here, I'm looking at the CSOs, I'm looking at the NGOs, I'm looking at the non-state actors. And what is our mandate? Our mandate is to provide advisory opinion to the leadership of the African Union. And our mandate is to popularize the activities and the agenda that the African Union has set out. And you can see what has been organized by my brother Stephen NGOMAT as the chair of the Peace and Security is one of those organs that the African Union leaders are very keen on, and ensuring that peace and security prevails in the continent. And the theme of this year's is the silencing the gun, which is very important. And this is why we really thank my brother STEPHANE for organizing this. It is not only the East Africa, Madam NADIA, who is organizing this. This has been a caravan across Africa, all the way from Morocco to south, to west, to central, to east. I think from east, it is going to south or west, and this is what we are doing. And many people that I've consulted with, who are on this panel and who are also listening, I think this is a very, very important initiative. Now, also to talk about ECOSOCC. ECOSOCC has 10 clusters, and one of the clusters is peace and security. And we thank my colleague Paul for really ensuring that this cluster is very active and is focused in terms of enhancing the objectives that the African leadership is focusing on. As the presiding officer, I also take this opportunity to encourage other clusters to do the same, because we really want people to feel the role being played by by ECOSOCC, by CSOs through the coordination of ECOSOCC. Now, after the clusters, ECOSOCC also has national chapters in various member state countries. And when you see John Mwaseighe, Madam CSE, is the national coordinator of the Kenya National Chapter. And the national chapter coordinates the activities of civil society organizations in various member countries, so that the government. And one very important point that we have said, and we are saying in every forum that we have, is that the role of CSOs is not just to criticize the government, but our role is also to be partners with the government in making policies and supporting development in those very countries. I said this early in the year when I was in Mauritius, when I met the president of Mauritius, and he took this very seriously because he keeps engaging the CSOs in policy making. Now, this is what we want to drive in Africa through ECOSOCC, so that CSOs are not seen as enemies of states. CSOs are not seen as enemies of development, but also we have a role which is watchdog, and we want to do our watchdog in a very positive manner. We don't criticize for the sake of criticizing, but we like to criticize for the sake of ensuring that the government do their work responsibly. Now, talking about peace and security, and I've mentioned the theme of this year's silencing of the gun, it's a very important responsibility for us as CSOs. Security and peace in Africa is not a responsibility for the leadership only. I have said this, I mentioned this when I was talking to the South African broadcasting station, and I said it is our responsibilities as citizens of Africa to promote peace and support the initiatives that our leaders are doing at the fundamental level. And it is very important that what my brother Rol is doing through the peace and security is very important to champion this. It is the Amnesty month as declared by the AU, and therefore September is very important. So this gathering is something that is historic, because we must keep on pushing the agenda of enhancing peace and development in Africa. Finally, I would like to say that we are very happy to have the government of Kenya involved. And why do I say this? I know Madam Nadia has a lot to say. Kenya has played a very important role in negotiating peace and security in the region. Kenya has played a very important role in ensuring that peace prevails in the continent. And our president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, has been very keen, and the other previous presidents, to ensure that East Africa remains united, Africa remains united, and this is very important for us. So, Madam CSA, when you make your report, please convey our best regards to His Excellency the President. And as ECOSOCC, we really acknowledge the role that Kenya has been playing in ensuring that peace prevails among ourselves. I'm seeing my brother from Somalia. Of course, I'm sure he mentioned this in his presentation. I'm seeing my brother from South Sudan, and many other countries, Ethiopia, and all that. And therefore, your presence here is really very, very important for us when we're talking about peace in the continent. And I would like, in conclusion, I would like to assure you that the civil society organization will play a very important role in supporting peace initiatives initiated by our governments. and also to ensure that the continent is peaceful. And Madam Abdallah, without our participation, I don't think the government will realize much. You can make many beautiful policies, you can make many beautiful strategies and very, positive strategies, but without the participation of CS, NGOs and other non-state actors like interreligious organizations, it will be very difficult to realize what the continent is trying to achieve. I saw one of the ambassadors also joining us for Peace and Security, Mohamed, you say something, and I think this is very important for us to continue making sure that peace prevails. So as the presiding officer, I'm very happy to participate in this very important discussion. And I look forward, my brother, role to further engagements. Let us not only wait to talk about peace when we have national important months or days like this, but I think we should find ways as ECOSOCC, to find various activities of engagement to make sure that our governments, our leaders, us as the people of Africa, we talk peace at almost at every level. And I'm also happy that we have ladies present on this forum, because when we have insecurity and instability in Africa, normally it is our mothers and sisters who suffer most. So I think the voice of women is very critical when you talk about peace and security in Africa. And I joked when I was interviewed by one of the radio stations that Africa will be very peaceful if we had all presidents women, because women understand the meaning of peace, women understand the role of living together, women are our mothers, they are our daughters, they are also our wives, and they're also our girlfriends. So I think they understand the meaning of what peace is all about. So I really thank everybody for taking this opportunity to be here. I can see my sister, Madam Abdallah, is smiling, but that's the truth. Let us speak the truth and really see that Africa, remains peaceful. So with those many remarks, I want to welcome everybody on board and those who are making presentations so that we can make this engagement, and even those who are listening from outside without being part of the panel. This is very important for us, wherever you are, to preach peace. Africa belongs to all of us, and the problem of Africa will be our problem. Nobody will come from outside to solve these issues for us. So thank you very much, the moderator.
Thank you so much, Pio, for those encouraging words and pointing out the importance of the civil society and non-state actors in the implementation of peace and security agenda, and also in pursuing the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. Presiding officer, please, if you allow me, could you welcome one of our key guest speakers, Madam Nadia, to give her presentation. And when the Lieutenant General Elamin Abdelgadir comes in, you'll also take that responsibility. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, John, for this honor to invite our chief guest today. And Madam Nadia, before you come in, I would like to say that our ambassador in Ethiopia has also sent greetings. She should have been here with us, but she had other engagement with the PSC back at home and the PRC meeting. So she's not able to be part of this, but she said that she's with us and she really supports the discussion that we are having. On that note, Madam Nadia, I will take this opportunity to welcome you officially to speak to us and also to join the family of ECOSOCC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone from wherever you are. Mr. Roel Stefan, Chairperson, Peace and Security Cluster AU-ECOSOCC, Mr. Denise Kodhe, Presiding Officer AU-ECOSOCC, Lieutenant General Badreldin, Elamin, Executive Secretary, Regional Center for Small Arms, Mr. Benny Gideon, Commissioner, South Sudan Human Rights Commission, Mr. Mohamed Musse, AU-ECOSOCC General Assembly Member Somalia, Susan Owiro, Program Coordinator, Partnership for Peace and Security Kenya, Captain Augustine, Senior Advisor, Peace and Borderlines Initiative, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and to the young people who are also listening to this. I'm honored to be with you to speak on matters peace and security during the September Africa Amnesty Month campaign on voluntary surrender of illicit firearms. We strongly support the African Union Silence the Guns 2020 initiative as a basis for advancing peace and security and offering a safer and better future for Africa. We are aware of the danger of illicit firearms and how much it affects stability of our nations, and we cannot have meaningful growth when there is insecurity. The African Union Initiative on Silencing the Gun by 2020 and the Sustainable Goals recognizes that a peaceful and stable environment is important to sustain growth and development. The government of Kenya's expression of interest to implement the African Amnesty Month campaign is an expression of our political will to end conflict in the continent. It is a daunting challenge, but worth the fight and an inspirational goal of conflict-free Africa. Kenya's active participation in the Program of Action on Small Arms and Light Weapons, as well as in implementing of regional instruments relating to the control of illicit flows, small arms and light weapons, solidifies its participation in the September Amnesty Month together with the other African countries. The government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Interior and coordination of national governments, unwavering support in the implementation of Nairobi Protocol of the Prevention, Control, and Reduction of Small Arms and Light Weapons in the Great Lakes region, Horn of Africa, and bordering states is commendable. In Kenya, as you know, over 600,000 legal firearms are in the hands of civilians. Kenya has already put measures of collecting illicit guns from civilians. The government recently reviewed civilian licensing in February this year. It vetted gun owners to ensure they have certificates of ownership, and the government currently has over 8,000 firearms seized from civilians. Aligning with the International Day of Peace on 21st September, the government will hold a public destruction of all the surrendering and confiscated firearms by the end of the year. The government has urged Kenyans to take advantage of the Amnesty Month to return illegal guns. And the call by the government to allow citizens to return illegal guns in the month of September without any punishment is in line with the decision of the African Union Heads of State Summit endorsing the observance of September as the African Amnesty Month for surrendering and collection of illegal weapons and arms. During this month as well, Kenya has embarked on activities including conducting effective public awareness campaigns to mobilize and sensitize people on the dangers of illicit trafficking in small arms and encourage those bearing weapons illegally to voluntarily surrender them in order to the relevant national authorities without fear and disclosure of identity. Kenya supports the AU decision and has pleaded to not arrest or prosecute anyone who has opted to come forward. Therefore, there will be proper management and destruction of illicit weapons and ammunition collected. Other activities lined up include community policing training workshops, removal of illegal weapons from circulation and use in the central to realize peace, security, and stability in the continent. We commend the Security Council for its resolution on this initiative and for emphasizing the role of young people. The youth constituency constitutes the majority of Africa's population and have a major role to play in implementing this initiative. Youth of Africa have a major part to play as they are very often at the forefront of the conflicts. This is an opportunity for them to play a role to bring an end to the scourging of uncontrolled gun ownership. It is important that they are involved, especially in dimensions of arm control and disarmament, and help create a culture of responsible gun control and peace. Enlisting their support in the program activities is a strong cultural message and would contribute to the process of demystifying the bargaining power of the gun in emerging African societies. Some of the youth activities include mobilizing of youth, sensitization, and media events, including musical concerts. There will also be a youth contest to develop national slogans for the program. Youth are also encouraged to write stories about these events. Going forward, supporting this initiative requires putting in place programs that focus on the root cause of these conflicts to minimize conflicts to a very large extent. This would undermine the use of weapons and is one of the best ways to silence the guns in Africa. We are working in full alignment with the AU through a framework on sustainable development for a peaceful and prosperous Africa, with a strong focus on youth inclusivity. Mobilization of youth towards silencing the guns by 2020 is not a choice, but an absolute necessity. However, in order for them to give up their guns, we have to give them direction and provide the enabling environment for them to thrive. Education, training, and job opportunities for the generation must be central to any development strategy. It is critical to harness the potential of the continent's youthful population and meet the expectation for education, opportunities, and jobs to create long-term security. The government of Kenya, through the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, contributes to the implementation of African Union's peace and security agenda through its programs that include review of the Kenya Youth Development Policy of 2019. That provides a framework for engaging youth in peace-building processes, sensitizing of youth on the need to uphold and promote peace, supporting investments in alternative non-formal education programs that include peace-building components, promotion of cohesive living among youth in cross-border communities through exchange programs, resource sharing, and inter-community meetings. The government of Kenya is cognizant that young people should be involved in the search for solutions by allowing them to participate in policy processes that affect them. We acknowledge the importance of their inclusion and their participation in security and peace-building process as stakeholders and decision makers. Young people deserve a seat at the table and in decision-making positions to make peace a possibility. They play a central role in implementing of peace and security initiatives on the continent. Therefore, their meaningful participation and leadership will strengthen our responses and are essential to lasting peace. As you know, through the Kenya Youth Development Policy, we call for enhanced strategic partnership and cooperation on peace and security. A key to a model of cooperation is the recognition of the youth participation and leadership. It is clear that the youth are the key agents for change, without whom the success of Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development Goals and the African Union's Agenda 2063 would be unachievable. It is important that the African governments advance the participation of youth-led projects and activities by silencing the gun agenda. Having said that, without a clear understanding and ownership of peace and security, initiative efforts are unlikely to be successful. It is important that we work together with them for a far more effective, peaceful, and sustainable security in Africa. As I conclude, I want to remind us all, including the youth, that we have a role to play as peace-loving citizens. Our governments and our countries count on each and every one of us to join the campaign and help spread the word in our communities. Let us save lives, let us protect one another, and let us silence the guns throughout the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Nadia, for that beautiful presentation, which has brought on board the aspects of youth in the agenda of peace and security, not only in Kenya, but in Africa. Key is to note that we should look at youth not only as key stakeholders, but key decision makers when it comes to the agenda of peace and security, because they have all the stakes in this agenda of peace and security. Thank you so much. Now, I'll take this pleasure to welcome our other speaker, who is Mr. Ben Gideon Mabor, who is the Commissioner, South Sudan Human Rights Commission, to give us on the government perspective on amnesty within the Southern Sudan perspectives. Welcome so much, sir, and thank you. Mr. Ben Gideon Mabor, if you can hear me. I think I'm not sure because I'd seen him, but maybe he has had challenges with his network. Then we are moving to our next speaker, Mr. Mohamed Mahmoud Musse, AU-ECOSOCC General Assembly Member, Somalia. Welcome, Mr. Mohamed Musse.
Thank you. Presiding Officer ECOSOCC, Mr. Denise Kodhe, Mr. Rolf Stephen, ECOSOCC Peace and Security Cluster, and all protocol observers. On behalf of the Somali civil society, and as a member of ECOSOCC Third General Assembly, I wish to express sincere thanks and appreciation to the organizers for this webinar, very important meeting, and also giving me the floor as a speaker. The overall security situation remains volatile across Somalia, including the capital Mogadishu, despite the major roadblock in every road in and out of the capital. In South Central Somalia, the militant group Al-Shabaab controls a large area, including key agricultural areas. The group relies on a variety of tactics to get recruit and solidify its presence. Hundreds of civilians were killed or displaced in indiscriminately improvised explosive devices attacked by Islamist armed group. South of the country, particularly in and around the capital, the group continued to detain, threaten, and harass and intimidate anyone who they think is against their ideology throughout the country. Military operations against Al-Shabaab by Somali government forces and African Union mission AMISOM troops and other foreign forces resulted in death, injuries, displacement of civilians across the south and the central of the country. Amnesty Month has been a visible advocacy platform for the AU-ECOSOCC Silencing the Guns campaign, and at policy level, it is aimed at laudable. However, the actual implementation of amnesty programs across Somalia remains highly controversial and continues to face considerable challenges. Illicit weapons flow within and to Somalia points multiple sources and end users. Weapons type forming such as from ammunition, pistols, rifles, and heavy machine guns and rocket propellant grenade. While there has been some success in curbing illicit flow with seizures and reduction in supply routes and government collection strategy, weapons and ammunition continue to curb among the range of non-state actors, including clan militias, opposition groups, and private citizens, except Al-Shabaab. Illicit weapons flow into and within the south central region of Somalia, which is an area of active armed conflict, in particular between Al-Shabaab on one hand and the government and AMISOM troops on the other hand. AMISOM troops, that is African Union mission. Despite the UN Security Council imposed a complete weapon embargo in Somalia shortly after the collapse of its central government in 1991, currently a partial lifting of provisional rules of embargo allows for the delivery of some weapons type and are intended to improve the capacity of the security forces of the federal government of Somalia. While the federal government has made some progress towards the management of state stockpiles and their distribution to its security forces, illicit arms trafficking and diversion of federal government of Somalia supplies remain grave concern. SALW, small arm, I think lightweight, are also seen as being an important means of defense at the personal level, as the people in some areas still do not have a sense of individual security. Their concern exists, fear of fresh outbreaks of tribal hostility, particular recurrent tribal conflicts. NGOMAT, in the fresh outbreak of tribal hostility, particularly tribal conflict in the Northern. There is also fear of Al-Shabaab armed group in this area for extortion, and where there is a lack of more formal security structure, weak federal government Somali security provision is one enabling factor of illicit weapons flow in South Central. It is also allows for and is perpetuated by existence of a powerful member states like Somaliland and Puntland, and non-state security providers engaged in illicit weapons transfer, while Al-Shabaab and government troops compete for control of vast area of territory in South Central. The government political influence and territorial control are often weak at the best. For its part, Al-Shabaab, the most prominent opposition group in Somalia, can move weapons within their controlled territory in South Central unhindered and receive them from multiple locations in the region, as well as from the neighboring region of Puntland and Somaliland, located at the Gulf of Aden, Red Sea, right opposite the Yemen. Supply lines originating from Yemen, including deliveries of pistols, machine guns, RPGs, ammunition to multiple receivers, multiple receipt points of Somali coast. Puntland is a primary gateway for weapons and ammunition from Yemen, received by sea and air, and evidence has confirmed their transfer to Mogadishu, which is capital, and other destinations in South Central. Internal illicit weapons follow in South Central include deliberate leakage and the sale of state weapons or non-state groups, in addition to black market trading and battlefield seizures, including weapons from federal government and African Union mission, facilitate unregulated arms trading in part of Mogadishu. And evidence shows that illicit weapons sold in market, including government supplies, and some weapons are believed to be deliberately leaked. Al-Shabaab have also used government weapons illicitly purchased in Mogadishu markets in attack on civilians and government targets. The necessity of finding a long-term political solution and formal treaty controlling SALW is more than ever. However, problem persists, particularly the security of Al-Shabaab controlled area where the government has no control. And these needs to be tackled as priority. The situation in areas such as South Central region, where residents are forced to live with the constant threat of improvised explosive devices and violence. Furthermore, this area undermines security elsewhere in the country and in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abdallah, for that, Mr. Mohamed Mahmoud, for that situational report on the situation in Somalia with respect to the Amnesty Month, and also with respect to the proliferation of small arms and light weapon, and also the peace and security in general in our neighboring state of Somalia. Also, you've indicated to us the kind of engagement that the civil society entities are engaged in to see that peace and security situation is contained within the Republic of Somalia for the betterment and for the development of the people of Somalia. Now it is my pleasure to look to our next presenter, who is Madam Susan Omino Chege, the Coordinator Partnership for Peace and Security in Kenya. And she's going to give us a presentation on the role of women on peace and security and the implementation of the Amnesty Month. Thank you, and welcome, Madam Susan Owiro.
John, before Madam pass through, I just want to let you know that there is a French translation for those who don't understand English.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, we have the interpretation facility within at the bottom of your screen. For those who you can choose the language of your preference so that you enjoy the presentations as they come. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Madam Susan Owiro. Welcome, Madam Susan.
Thank you very much. All protocols observed. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to share with you the role and perspective of civil society in silencing the gun.
We can't hear you properly.
Susan?
Yes?
Your voice, please.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, when you come closer, you are audible.
Good morning and good afternoon. Am I clearer?
Yeah, at least.
Thank you. I'd like to share with you the civil society perspectives, action, and the role of women in the implementation of the Amnesty Month. And I'll just take slowly, like the African Union developed the master roadmap. And within this master roadmap, there were key issues that the master roadmap was looking out for, developed steps to silence the gun by 2020. The agenda was to mobilize all stakeholders to prioritize efforts of peace and security, socioeconomic development to address root causes of violent conflicts, which include poverty, historical injustices, inequalities, gender-based violence, unemployment, and corruption, among others. The key component of the roadmap in terms of engaging stakeholders automatically gives civil society an opportunity to be able to address.
Sorry for the interference. I think, yes. Moderator, if Susan can increase her volume a little bit, people can't hear.
Susan, the participants are complaining that they cannot hear you. And can we give you some bit of time so that you can sort out your issue as we go to the next present?
John?
Yes, sir.
Yes, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we are busy sorting out the network with Susan, Madam Nadia got another commitment. So we would like to give her a floor for her to address us for a last keynote with regards to the perspectives. Then we will come back to Susan.
No problem.
Okay.
So Susan sort out that, and then we listen to Madam Nadia a bit on the new perspectives. Thank you.
And the keynote yes, fine.
Yes, thank you. Well, to finalize this, I just want to say that it is important that the African government advance the participation of youth by supporting youth-led projects and activities. As you realized when giving my speech, I've been talking a lot about youth as the ministry, which with the agenda of youth and innovation and ICT, we believe that it is very vital. And as a government of Kenya, it's very vital and important for young people to participate in peace building, to participate in security, because at the end of the day, they are at the forefront of this thing, and they are in the communities, and they are the ones who unfortunately sometimes get used in such engagements and such activities. So I do believe this is a very fruitful conversation and very fruitful webinar that we're having. I'm very humbled again to be part of it, especially as a constituency that represents the youth, which, as you know, is below the age of 35 in Kenya. We are 75%, and I know as a whole continent as well, we are very youthful. And so we look up to leaders like yourselves and ambassadors and policymakers and changers to just engage with us, the young people, in order to elaborate and understand how the processes are working, the different strategic elements that are there, in order for us to enhance peace building, in order for us to boost our security, and just to be able to be a cognizant and a very strong continent and dynamic as a whole. So having said that, I look forward to engaging more with ECOWAS. I look forward to engaging more with AU as a whole, East Africa, throughout, because I do believe our engagements and synergizing together with the government of Kenya will be something that will create more substantive and collective decisions and efforts. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam NADIA, for that insightful presentation. ECOSOCC is very pleased that has been honored to have you on board. But I have one question that I thought maybe you should just give your thoughts towards it. One of the participants is asking, why can't African governments develop a curriculum on peace building from primary to university? Maybe could you just bring your thought towards that as we let you go?
Thank you very much. The question, I usually like responding to questions like that as why, when someone asks why, it becomes a very, a substantive way of answering it. But I would say that if, for instance, these curriculums are not there, this is something that both the government of Kenya, both ECOWAS and other EU engaging partners should think about and implement and push forward. Because again, if we are teaching people, if you're teaching young people about peace and security, it has to be from a very, very young age. So we have to lament the foundation of these different things. So it might have not been discussed before, but having a question like that now, it's something that both myself, both, ECOWAS, AU, the government of Kenya and other governments should now sit together and find a very substantive policy direction into implementing this, so that we can now equip our young people with knowledge about what security is, or about what peace is, and about how we can be substantive as a whole in a continent. So it is something that should be done, and it is something that we need to talk more about it and see how we can elevate forward.
Thank you so much, Madam NADIA, for that. As you indicated, it is a discussion that both the ECOSOCC group and those in government and the rest of the civil society needs to come on board and initiate that discussion. Before you leave, Presiding Officer ECOSOCC would want to say something.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, CSS. And we are privileged to have you on board. And I always say this, that the youth should always find ways to participate, because the only way to be involved is to participate. And it's very important that you have expressed the importance that the youth need to play. And I'm also very happy that our head of secretariat was on, probably I believe he's listening, Mr. William Kariu. And there are a lot of programs that involve the youth in the ECOSOCC framework. And they would engage with you much later through the national chapter and also through the Peace and Security Chair, so that we see, we really want the youth to come out strong in matters to do with development in Africa, not only peace and security, but there are a lot of sectors where the role of the youth, including governance issues. So I think this is a very good opportunity, and also to have you as a youth and part of the government. So we really, appreciated this, and thank you very much for creating time to be with us. And we look forward to engaging further on other issues that ECOSOCC is dealing with. So thank you so much.
I just wanted to add, if I'm allowed, Chair, as a continuation to the answer, when I first joined being the Chief Administrative Secretary, after seeing how young people are and the dynamics and the constituency is, I came up with a personal project, which is literally in line with the government's Big Four agenda, which is something that I feel like I should share it here. And that is, the thing that I came up with is called Kenya is Me. So Kenya is Me is a campaign and initiative that I've started in order to reinstill back the values of the young Kenyans who are part and parcel of giving back to the socio-economic and political sphere of the country. So Kenya is Me is bringing back is bringing back the patriotism in the young people so that they understand that for us to create peace, cohesive environment, we have to bring back the values of loving one another. We have to bring back the values of uniting with one another, and we have to bring back the values of educating one another. So in line with talking about why not the government and ECOSOCC coming up with programs to teach young people on security and peace, this other initiative we can now adapt to is an initiative that tells young people, before we start complaining and talking about why, can we first ask ourselves the questions: are we patriotic enough as Africans, as young Africans? Are we patriotic enough to participate in the different decision-making and policy processes of our country? As an individual, are you patriotic enough as a Kenyan? What are you doing? As much as there are challenges, as much as there's security challenges, there's peace building challenges, what are you doing as an individual Kenyan? What makes you Kenyan? What makes you Burundian? What makes you Moroccan? What makes you Ugandan? So these are things that I think we also need to now reinstill back to young people. And that is why I'm very, very committed to this initiative, because it teaches young people the value of taking responsibility and taking charge of you as an African young person who is contributing to the social and economic sphere of this continent. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Cabinet Administrative Secretary, for those enriching. And some are asking how can they get involved in that, and I believe by the end of it all, we shall know how best to get involved with the Kenya is Me program. Thank you so much. Thank you. I want to believe by now Susan Owiro has sorted out the challenge that she was having, and now she can come back to do her presentation on the role of women in peace and security and in the Amnesty Month. Karibu, Madam Susan. Okay, then. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All protocols observed.
So,
I would like to take this opportunity to share with you the perspective of civil society organizations.
Susan.
Sorry, Madam Susan.
Yes.
You may be joining with two devices. Maybe you need to switch off one.
Yeah.
Switch off this. You may switch off presentation.
It was echoing, so you may need to switch off one.
Okay.
Cyril, Aki, I'm stressed.
It's better now.
Now it's okay.
It's better now.
Very good.
Yes, it works now. It works now.
The theme of silencing the gun coincides with 20th anniversary of United Nations Security Council, Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security. And at the same time, it is also coinciding with plus 25 of the Beijing platform. So this is a very good year in silencing the gun and engaging women in participating in the process of silencing the gun. You do realize that we are just a month away before we celebrate the anniversary of 1325. So very key is that this month and these issues of silencing the gun, we realize that CSO have been engaging in the whole process. They've been engaging in perspective of silencing the gun in different arenas, different critical areas. And foremost, the key thing is that they're critical partners in agenda setting. When you talk about agenda setting, you look at how civil society organizations are easily trusted by members of the community, and therefore they can the members of the community to surrender the illicit guns. And this is more so the women who are using what we call soft power in surrendering the guns. They are able to implement policies and activities in innovative ways. And when we are talking about innovation, we are looking at a way that they are using the digital approach in managing legally held firearms to reduce cases of misuse of firearms within the community and at large. Another thing is that civil society articulate holistic responses. And when we talk about holistic responses, we are looking at trust building initiatives, such as community policing initiative that brings together both young people and old people in addressing the vice. Within the community policing that we have in Kenya, the communities on the ability of the government to guarantee the security, and therefore no need to keep the illicit arms because they are working in partnership between security forces and civilians. They also have ability to provide pressure through lobbying in ways that impact political will. Civil society have capacity to advocate for silencing the gun through various activities. They also work in areas that address root causes of conflict and proliferation of small arms, including creating avenues for dialogue with militia. You will realize that when the government is working with members of the community, half the time they are not able to negotiate with militia, but civil society have capacity to negotiate with militia or unlawful groups, what many governments cannot be able to do. Another thing is inclusivity with ability to bring everyone on board, including women and youth. And this we are looking at with Resolution 1325, how we are able to look at positions of women in terms of participation, in terms of prevention, conflict prevention, protection, relief, and recovery. When you engage, when you include everyone or bring everyone on board, they're able to articulate some of those key things that we are looking at. Issues of creating awareness on the subject matter, including research, information, observation, capacity building. And we have civil society organizations that have been able to engage on capacity building with police officers on arms control and management. They have been able to train police on physical security and stockpile management. At the same time, they provide data and information on human rights. So the other thing that we may look at is implications for civil society to address the root causes of conflicts, engage in terms of lobbying political parties reform, advocate for policies that are responsive and reduce inequalities, strategies to prevent gender discrimination, uniform laws on cross-border or gender-based violence to look at issues of violators, ensure disentanglement between military and politics is a priority, and maintain an understanding of gender as a system, create an intersectional and gendered structures that perpetuate gender-based violence and systems that create them to be able to dismantle them. Address those structures that inhibit full and meaningful participation of women in public and political life. So I began by talking about this year's celebration or anniversary of 1325 on women, peace and security, the Beijing platform. What 1325 has been able to do is that we've been able to develop national action plans. National action plans, regional action plans, which are a sure way in terms of partnership, in terms of localizing the resolution. And when you're localizing the resolution, you are holding consultative forums to sensitize communities on the Amnesty Month, because within that, women, peace and security are able to include programs of mentorship, accompanying young women and creating opportunities for solidarization. And I want to bring a case in mind where we are able to do voluntary disarmament within informal settlement. You will find that most young people will trust more women, more so younger women, to actually give them the arms to return. The challenge is that when they're at that particular position, they need solidarization or solidarity so that their partnership from both government and non-government entities to enable them proceed with the amnesty month. We also look at advocating for implementation of the Women, Peace and Security agenda and strengthening the role of women in silencing the gun. When you look at the master roadmap, the key thing that you keep asking yourself, how has it been engendered to enable women to engage in what we call meaningful participation? When we had the meeting in Nairobi last year, we realized that it was not completely engendered, and therefore a need to engender it to give more women an opportunity to be able to look at. Key challenges that we are facing right now in terms of implementation of silencing the gun is one, the COVID-19 pandemic presented unique challenges for both state and non-state actors. We've seen the spike and increase in sexual gender-based violence, increased unemployment. We've also looked at the widening inequality gaps, rendering majority women vulnerable, and youth, which would therefore necessitate some of them to take arms as much as we are looking for ways of ensuring that we surrender the arms at this month. We also look at the increased exclusion of what we call face-to-face meeting, face-to-face meetings are reduced, and increased use of technology, locking out a cross-section of population, majority women. When this population is locked out because they may not have devices in terms of engaging in the process of silencing the gun, we have actually moved from community. We have moved from community to digital awareness creation, which is a major challenge. Another challenge is the fragmented approach in implementing silencing the gun agenda. CSOs are not tapping into internal power and connecting into the AU agenda or the aspirations depending on their themes. There are those that are prioritizing human rights, peace and security, women, peace and security, further dividing into what would call the 4 pillars when you're talking about women, peace and security. When it is divided within the 4 pillars, some will be looking at sexual gender-based violence, some will be looking at prevention, some will be looking at participation, good governance, and promotion of democracy, which is a major challenge. The next challenge that civil society faces is acceptability and legitimacy by the general networks. And last, in terms of challenges, we lack proper coordinating mechanisms, both at national and at regional level. The key challenge is actually to get majority women are found at the grassroots level. How do we bring these women that are found at the grassroots level to the negotiation table so that they can also occupy these spaces? When you talk about silencing the gun, the key thing that you will realize is that it is security-wise, and when you're talking about the gun and a local member of an ordinary member of the community, the first thing that they come is that there is fear between security forces and the civilians. So it is very important that during this month, during this amnesty month, we are not just posting things on media, but we are looking for key strategies in terms of reaching the local community to be able to surrender the guns. More so, how do they create opportunity to occupy these spaces and silence the guns? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Susan, for that beautiful presentation on the role of women in peace and security, and also in the agenda of Amnesty Month. Thank you so much. For those who want having difficulties in communication, please, there is a provision of translation services. At the bottom of your screen, you will see interpretation. Then please choose the language of your preference. Ladies and gentlemen, your excellencies, at this moment, I'd want to reschedule a bit of the lineup of presenters will now go back to the commissioner of, from South Sudan, and then we give the executive secretary, RECSA, has sent a representation, and then from there now we continue with captain, and then we go to Madam Bogo, and then we go to our final presenter, Mr. Duke. Therefore, at this particular moment, I welcome Mr. Benny Gideon Mabor, the Commissioner, South Sudan Human Rights Commission. Welcome, Commissioner. Okay, it's like the commissioner is having challenges. Therefore, let's continue with Madam Patricia from to RECSA. Madam Patricia, please.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
You're very audible, madam.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome on board. Thank you for finding time.
I'm representing the Executive Secretary of RECSA.
It's only that we can't see you.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, madam.
Okay, I'll try and share my screen. I don't know whether it will be visible, but the presentation is very brief. We are doing a presentation on transnational perspective on countering proliferation of small arms and light weapons in relation to the September Africa Amnesty Month. And the presentation will take us off of the transnational organized crime and small arms and light weapons, RECSA's approach in combating transnational organized crime, and RECSA's programs on transnational organized crime. And lastly, I will give a short brief on silencing the gun in Africa during this Africa Amnesty Month of September.
Excuse me, madam. You are
yes.
You are breaking. We are losing you. We are losing you. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Let me look for my presentation. I share my screen. Is that okay?
That is okay.
Let me know whether you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So I'll go straight to start the presentation, which I'll just give an overview of our understanding of organized crime and small arms and light weapons within the RECSA region. RECSA has a mandate, which is drawn from the Nairobi Protocol, where it provides a legal framework for a regional approach in fighting the illicit accumulation, trafficking, and uses of small arms and light weapons. Within the RECSA region, we know that small arms, illegal small arms and light weapons are the enablers of political instability, sustained armed conflicts and violence, abet terrorism, wildlife poaching, cattle rustling, and cause socio-economic instability, which slows down development. At the transnational dimension, small arms and light weapons help in commissioning of crime and also help in trafficking of contraband within and across our borders. On your screens, you'll see some photos. The first photo on my left is people standing on top of a rhino or an elephant that's poaching, which is due to the illicit flow of small arms. The second picture on my right, you see people moving with their baggage. That is forced displacement due to conflict. The third picture on my left, just below, is young men in combat ready to go to war. And the last picture, you see people laying down. They look like they were tortured and they are dead. And this is all due to the illicit small arms that are diverted from, might be government or stolen, and being used to commit crime. RECSA's approach in combating transnational organized crime, as I'd already mentioned, RECSA draws its mandate from the Nairobi Protocol. And from this, RECSA builds the capacity of member states to prevent the proliferation of small arms and light weapons and reduce the illicit flow of arms already in circulation. At the regional level, RECSA has developed regional standards to promote a harmonized approach. This ensures that all of our 15 member states are moving in the same direction in the spirit of a regional cooperation in line with the Nairobi Protocol. RECSA's approach in combating transnational organized crime, RECSA has some pillars that it follows, and this is one of the pillars of trying to strengthen physical stockpile security and also promoting best practices that ensures that weapons and ammunition are stored safely and are accounted for, prevent diversion, illegal hands, and avert risks to public and state security. Our approach is the life management of weapons and ammunition from the point of import to destruction to ensure that all arms are accounted for throughout their life period. What has RECSA done to avert or to at least help in reducing transnational organized crime? One of the key areas that RECSA has tried to reduce the circulation of arms is marking of firearms, especially the state-owned firearms. So far, RECSA has developed a regional standard firearms marking system to make it easy to identify and account for legally held firearms of the state and civilians within the RECSA region. It also makes it easy to trace weapons that are used to commit crime within and across the borders. In the past 10 years, RECSA has provided about 81 marking machines, training and logistics for marking firearms. The other intervention that RECSA has done to abet transnational organized crime is creation of arms databases through the RECSA software tracing system, which is an electronic record keeping facility to help and make it easy to trace firearms. Then RECSA has also in the last 5 years provided innovative, efficient self-storage for weapons and ammunition to prevent diversion, theft, explosion by constructing 6 permanent armories, providing 1,700 steel arms boxes, and providing 4 modified container armories. RECSA has also further destroyed obsolete surplus weapons and ammunition, and those also recovered from civilians to reduce unintended explosions and costs of maintaining obsolete arms. So far, RECSA has destroyed 400,000 firearms and more than 2,000 tons of unexploded ordnances within the RECSA member states. RECSA has also conducted practical training in international best practices in weapons and ammunition management to ensure armed forces manage, account, and use their arms properly and ethically. RECSA has also, over time, undertaken conduct regional PSSM trainings from European instructors who are under the EFSAG program after developing capacity of RECSA regional PSSM expert instructors. It has also further undertaken 14 regional PSSM trainings for over 280 law enforcement agencies and over 15 national trainings of over 680 law enforcement agencies. We have also worked with the civilians, whereby we have promoted civilian disarmament through awareness campaigns to disarm the hearts and minds of our people. This is an exercise that we piloted a project in Kenya, South Sudan, and Uganda in the year 2018. On the further regional scope, RECSA has a working cooperation with Interpol and the IAPCO. RECSA has been in discussion with Interpol, IAPCO, whereby the RECSA software system, the RSTS, and Interpol IAMS are trying to merge and see how it can be used as one system within the member states to help in tracing of traffic firearms that are involved in committing crimes. Besides the IAMS and the RSTS, RECSA has also cooperated with the IAPCO to support joint cross-border operations named Salama to seek and identify to dismantle organized crime networks across the borders, which was mostly between the SAPCO region and the IAPCO region. When we come to the silencing the guns, RECSA's efforts have been recognized, and silencing the guns was mooted in 2017 at the Assembly of the African Union, declaring September of each year to be the Africa Amnesty Month. And this year, September is the last month of the amnesty, with the theme to surrender and collect all illicit arms and light weapons in line with the African and international best practices. Amnesty Month is seen as a contribution to African Union Master Roadmap of practical steps to silence the guns by 2020. This year, through the support of UNODA, in joint partnership with African Union, some African states have committed and pledged to support the Amnesty Month. And they have gotten financial support from UNODA. Their countries are Burkina Faso, Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, and Kenya. The main objective of the project is to contribute to reducing illicit ownership of small arms and light weapons and their ammunition, decreasing levels of armed violence, strengthening capacity of law enforcement and military, creating high awareness through media among civilians of harmful consequences of illicit small arms and light weapons. This is the last month of the amnesty, as I earlier mentioned. There's need to lobby, as RECSA we are requesting and also lobbying our member states to ask that the AU states to extend this noble initiative for another further 5 years. Also, we urge the African Union member states that have not joined the AU party to do so and to embrace arms marking and record keeping of firearms. We all have a role to play as peace-loving citizens. I count on each one of us to join the campaign to help spread the word in our community. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Madam Patricia, for that wonderful presentation, of which RECSA has shared with us the kind of efforts it is and activities they are engaged in matters curbing and controlling the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. And also, we indicated the various activities and support areas you've done, not only to civil society actors, but also to the member states, to see that the agenda of proliferation and the Amnesty Month is realized. More so, we are pleased that you are seeking the lobbying of the African Union and the member state to see that this noble initiative, because it is ending in 2020, to see that the noble initiative of the Amnesty Month of September is extended, and therefore, so that the persons in Africa, the citizens of Africa who are in possession of the illicit arms can have the opportunity to surrender and still be given amnesty. We are truly appreciate, and I want to believe at this juncture, maybe the PO, the presiding officer, ECOSOCC, has a word or two to say, and then we continue with the rest of the panelists. Karibu, Bwana PO.
Thank you very much, moderator, for giving me this chance again to echo the presentation by Patricia. Patricia, thank you very much for coming in handy on behalf of the General, the Executive Secretary, who is unwell, but still he managed to make sure that the presentation is made available for us to discuss. It is very important to talk about what RECSA is doing in the region, and I think, as you said clearly in your end of presentation, let's cooperate, disarm the continent. I think this is a very, very important sentiment that we need to be speaking among ourselves. Africa cannot develop without us enhancing peace and security. Africa will not have investment if we are not peaceful. And Africa will not have unity if our brothers and sisters are fighting each other. So all the attempts that we need to make is to ensure that Africa remains peaceful. And one of them is to encourage our people to surrender the guns, is to treat peace as we are trying to do through the continental agenda of peace and security, and also to enhance, to ensure that our youth, the CSOs, the non-state actors, and the NGOs, the media, are educated, are sensitized, are informed. The communities are informed on the importance of maintaining peace and living in harmony. This is very important. I'm sure we'll engage with you at some point so that we make sure that when we're talking about bringing peace in the continent or surrendering guns, it's not only for occasions like what we have, the month of amnesty, but it becomes a continuous exercise. That's the responsibility that we need to play. So I thank you very much, and please convey our best regards to the Executive Director, and we wish him quick recovery. But we look forward to engaging further on this. ECOSOCC is open. You may not be aware about what ECOSOCC is doing, but ECOSOCC is the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council, which is an organ dedicated by AU to deal with the citizens. And our role is to engage, the people of Africa and to see how we can, discuss and articulate agendas where the leaders have made to see how Africa can move forward, and also to advise the leaders on what are the policies which need to be put in place. So we'll engage further with you as ECOSOCC on issues to do with peace and security. And we also have the chair of the Peace and Security Cluster with us here, Mr. STEPHANE, who is doing a lot of work. So I'm sure we'll be engaging further on this to make sure that we really realize the theme of this year's, which is surrendering the guns. So thank you so much, Patricia, for that presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pio, and thank you, Patricia. Now we're going to our next speaker, who is Captain Augustine Lokwang, Senior Advisor, Security, Peace, and Initiatives, to give us his presentation on transboundary experiences from the Moroto Peace Deal, Kenya, Uganda, in relation to the Amnesty Month, the Amnesty on Small Arms and Light Weapons, and also the Amnesty Month. Maybe, Madam Patricia, you can unshare the screen. So welcome, Captain Augustine Lokwang.
Thank you. Desktop one. Okay, are we able to see my screen?
Yes, your screen is, yeah, we can see it, but just enlarge it a bit. If you can.
Okay, okay, okay.
Just enlarge it.
Enlarge it. Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, that is okay. Very okay.
Yeah, yeah, thank you very much. So my presentation is going to be to share the experiences of the Kenya, Uganda cross-border efforts of peace building and conflict management, as well as developing the borderlands of the two countries. And this is again is the background of the MOU between Kenya and Uganda, which was signed on 12th September last year, and actually was commemorated on 12th of September this year with the launch of two peace dividend projects in Nassal, in West Pokot County, and then Urum in Turkana County. Let me start with the first slide. Of course, the borderlands of Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Ethiopia are occupied by pastoral communities. As you can see, the red box in the map indicates the different groups, pastoral groups that exist in the borderlands of those four countries. These communities relate both in peace and in conflict, and therefore their interaction within that space produces a wider conflict system, which is a problem to all the respective countries, that is South Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Uganda. And therefore, collective efforts of managing their conflict relations becomes a cross-border issue for governments and also local governments. The explanation then of why these communities possess smaller light weapons, of course, is premised on the fact that they are threats to them, therefore they own them for self-defense, and also these border areas to be able to facilitate production systems, particularly pastoralism in their case. Access to water, pasture, ideally involves the use of force, which means the use of small arms. The borders, of course, are porous. However, the implementation of devolution in Kenya became the turning point of the manner in which the conflict dynamics were playing out between the Turkana, Kenya, and neighboring communities of Uganda, Ethiopia, South Sudan. As we speak, the efforts of the local governments and the national government and peace actors have borne fruits in bringing down the intensity and magnitude of conflicts in these borderlands. I wanted to demonstrate that before the MOU was actually signed last year on 12th September, there have been so many efforts that are both at the local community level and subnational level. This involves communities dialoguing and producing social agreements that guided them in sharing resources, pasture and water, conflict management, and by a bigger part, managing the impacts of small arms and light weapons amongst them. In this regard, the county governments and the local administrations on the side of Karamoja and also on the South Sudan side have had a very pivotal role in managing conflicts and also addressing the problem of small arms in the borderlands. There have been policy efforts at the local level and the national level towards the management of small arms and light weapons in these borderlands. The MOU between Kenya and Uganda that targets stabilizing the borderlands of West Pokot, Turkana, and Karamoja regions came to provide structured cross-border engagement mechanism or framework which was not there previously. And this has improved largely government and partners and community efforts towards managing conflicts that are related to small arms and light weapons. It's therefore, the MOU is therefore a source of national goodwill and a strategic means for resource mobilization to address peace and development issues for these communities in these borderlands of Kenya and Uganda. The MOU leverages on strong local cultural and identity ties to be able to manage the problems of small arms and light weapons in the borderlands. And therefore, the MOU has in several ways invested in championing elimination of small arms. And actually, one of the objects of the MOU is eliminating small arms and light weapons among its communities in the borderlands. Exactly in this slide, I highlighted eliminating illegal arms as a key objective in the MOU. And there have been a lot of efforts by governments on the Ugandan side and Kenya towards removing and ridding small arms and light weapons from the communities. Advocacy efforts towards psychological disarmament. There have been amnesties by the governments to border communities to turn in arms voluntarily. There have also been provision of incentives to allow surrender of illicit arms, for example, cash for guns. There has been processes of registering and marking arms. And of course, the last resort has always been forceful disarmament where communities are not cooperating. Small arms and light weapons have of course been flowing from one borderland to the other, and of course the instability in South Sudan accounts for the largest source of illicit arms in the region, and therefore supply of small arms automatically comes from the South Sudan side. Although efforts are currently ongoing with the stabilization that is we are seeing, we are looking forward to a future where South Sudan will internally manage the problem of small arms, which will also benefit the borderlands of Kenya and Uganda. The MOU has also been able to support local governments to use culture to promote nonviolent interethnic interaction and collaboration. For instance, every year in Turkana, in the county capital called Lodwar, we celebrate a cultural event called Tobong Lore, which draws all communities from South Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda to actually socially interact and bond. But also it supports trade and other sectoral issues. Because of this MOU, we now have structures, cross-border structural mechanism for handling challenges relating small arms and light weapons, and in a big way, preventing conflict related to small arms and light weapons. Communities are being facilitated to interact through peace-building dialogue meetings, and they are able to create their own resolutions, which they commit to, and government supports them to be able to implement. There have been investments by the county government of Turkana and Moroto, Kotido, and Kabong districts towards facilitative infrastructure that allows communities to be able to share trade relations and investments. These investments have actually, the investments in infrastructure have actually enabled communities to appreciate themselves beyond conflict relations into meaningful exchange of goods and services that leads to revenues, that leads to development and empowerment. Governments have also invested in livelihoods to diversify means of living for communities. This is to address the problem that it's only by use of small arms and light weapons that communities can make a living in these borderlands. Border communities are also beginning to access education services, which is out of national government and county government and local districts governments investments to the communities. There is also the use of analysis to be able to have informed strategies for small arms and light weapons management and interventions. Peace actors and local peace committees at the grassroots level have been very, very critical in advancing campaigns against small arms and light weapons within communities in the borderlands. So the MOU, as designed, expects to address the following priorities that the communities require. And the perspective here is utilization of the human security paradigm to influence and displace violence in these borderlands. The President of the Republic of Kenya, when the signing of the ceremony, signing of the MOU ceremony was happening in Moroto, actually pronounced that the government will build 3 high-impact dams, multi-purpose dams that will meet the water problems of the pastoralist, livestock, livelihoods, and also several other purposes. So water, peace building and conflict management, livelihoods and resilience initiatives, infrastructure, particularly roads, health and sanitation services, culture, promoting culture, human capital development. These are the goodies that the MOU between the two countries would expect to deliver for the communities living in the borderlands. There have been, of course, challenges in ensuring that these borderlands are, the small arms and light weapons, the borderlands are managed, and these challenges include different approaches to disarmament. For example, the approach employed by Kenya, that of voluntary surrender of arms, and also the issue of registration of arms is different from that of Uganda. For example, full and forceful disarmament, and of course that of Ethiopia and South Sudan. The bigger challenge as well is lack of goodwill to be able to have, a regional project for disarmament that is more of a concurrent from all sides of the 4 countries. We need huge resources to be able to achieve alternative livelihoods, to be able to read small arms as a facilitator for livelihoods. Complex transnational crime is also fueling circulation of small arms in these borderlands, and there have been legal issues around application of community or traditional justice systems where there are incidents relating to small arms and light weapons. Otherwise, there is hope, and the MOU provides an opportunity for governments, both the national and the subnational governments, and also development partners like IGAD, the UNDP, ideally the UN, and communities to work together towards addressing the challenge of small arms in the borderlands. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Captain, for that insightful presentation that has given us perspective of what's happening on the ground pertaining the challenges of small arms and light weapons, and how governments and communities have gotten into actions through the frameworks of engagement, including the MOU that was developed, to see that communities' peace and security is restored, and initiatives of livelihoods building brought on board. Because as we move forward with the climate change implications, therefore we're going to find more issues of livelihood disruption, and therefore alternative ways need to be formulated to see that our communities continue to meet their economic needs and livelihoods and also prosper. Thank you so much, Captain, for that insightful discussion. Now we move forward to our presenter, Madam Jacqueline Bogo, who is the Chief Party DIFT Reinvent Peace and Security Program, to give us the perspectives on CSOs and also matters of development partners' perspective involvement in peace and security, and also on the implementation of Amnesty Month in the region. Madam Jacqueline Bogo, Karibu.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are loud and clear.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be in this conversation today and all protocols observed. Would like to give my perspective on the involvement of CSOs and development partners in the Amnesty, but more broadly on peace and security. And it's an interesting time to be having that discussion. Like my colleague Susan just mentioned, this discussion is coming on a time or a season where we are also celebrating the Women, Peace and Security agenda. It's also a month when we'll be celebrating the International Day of Peace. So I think it's a very, very timely opportunity to refocus and begin asking ourselves as Africa, where we are in terms of involving our citizenry in peace and security matters. And of course, our agenda as Africa 2063 on integrating, an integrated prosperity and peaceful Africa that is driven by citizens almost covers everything we are saying. Because when we say driven by citizen, then we are saying every member of the society, every member of the community matters. And yet a lot of these members of the society are actually covered a lot of time by efforts of either development partners or civil society organizations. So then having a conversation on the involvement of CSOs on peace and security, I think is cardinal to the agenda of advancing Africa, of getting prosperous and peaceful Africa. Of course, again, I am drawn, my attention is drawn to the very essence of silencing the gun, where we are looking at a conflict-free Africa, which makes peace a reality for all, and where, of course, there are efforts to stem every humanitarian disaster that happens in Africa. Now, who's actually at the forefront of the peace efforts in Africa? Who's really at the forefront of addressing humanitarian challenges? A lot of time who you see is civil society. So again, a very, very, very important player in the peace and security of Africa. So silencing all illegal weapons in Africa, in essence, that means government and the meaningful structures of civil society and citizens must partner meaningfully to be able to achieve the aspirations of peace and security in Africa. So the conversation today is very, very important. But as I was reflecting on the role of civil society in Africa, in particular, as relates to peace and security and this conversation today, I wondered about what is central to the conflict and illegal weapons in Africa. And one of the things you see is for gun acquisition is largely a symptom of underlying conflicts. So then addressing at the heart of this conversation should be who is able to address the root causes of violence. And you find that a lot of time in Africa, in terms of people that have ability, have command the trust and legitimacy of society and communities, in a lot of times, in a lot of spaces, you'll find that is a civil society playing a very, very, very cardinal role in being able to be trusted as an interlocutor for communities to address the root causes of violence. So that is a very, very important appreciation and role we must accord civil society to be able to address the root causes. Because if we address the root causes, in essence, we also then will be managing the illegal weapon situation in Africa. The other factor about civil society is their proximity to the situation or to the ground, in this case, to communities. The multiple roles civil society and structures within civil society, such as women, play, and their proximity to the causes and drivers of conflict enable them to have a situational understanding of the challenge that a lot of time other structures may not appreciate, and therefore a role that we need to center. That proximity, that being able to speak the language of communities, to speak to the situation of conflicts in these communities is very, very important for us to be able to then address and silence the guns. Now, the other aspect about civil society, and in particular here, I'll also focus on women, is their ability to neutralize hardline position. My colleague and good friend Augustine has just spoken about, the intercommunal conflicts and the amnesties, and being able to neutralize this hardline position a lot of time, especially where combatants, do not want to face government structures because of fear of arrest and all that. You'll find that then the trust goes to civil society to be able to step in as a skillful negotiator and neutralizer of these positions of the different groups. So that is a role we would appreciate and need to keep emphasizing, because unless we are able to neutralize a lot of the hardline positions that go into conflicts, then we are not able to address this conflict. Yet, of course, we notice, especially for women, fewer than 10% of women would be involved in negotiations or even in signing of peace agreements. So again, when we begin to look at this role, then we as Africa must begin to say, if they are going to be a good interlocutor in neutralizing positions and influencing positions, then they must play a bigger role in the table, in the negotiating tables, and in even agreeing on peace agreements. The other thing to look at is really the whole issue of being able to civil society playing a big transforming role, within the natural settings of these groups. Again, going to youth and women, for example, you will find the very role of a woman as a nurturer comes almost second nature to peace building. So we need to tap into this role, because these roles are natural to these agencies. And because of that role, that natural ability to stabilize, then we can actually build on them to build bigger peace, greater security for our communities. Unfortunately, there is a gap, because you find that this role, which is so natural to a lot of these groups, is not reflected in policy. So when we build policy, it's not homegrown from the very nature of the ability of these agencies and groups to build stability for communities and to reconcile people in communities. So that's another thing we would need to be reflecting upon, even as we look at this month of amnesty. We need, of course, to look at and recognize that, like I said, the legitimacy and the trust a lot of these groups command, even where other groups may not be trusted or considered legitimate, either by the government or militias. So if we have civil society stepping in, being trusted by communities to negotiate their peace, that is so important, including then being able to negotiate the amnesty and the surrender of weapons. And I think that is an area that could be recognized more, and an area where for Africa, we do need to do more and more of it. Of course, notwithstanding the fact that our mothers, our grandmothers, our women's group, for example, are always mediating. Amazing mediation is happening in the villages every day, whether it's in the watering wells, whether it is at the domestic level, on an everyday basis. On an every moment basis, groups in Africa are negotiating and mediating something. And so how do we catalyze this? How do we build it together so that then it's not seen as a mundane effort, mundane and unappreciated effort, but it's seen as a critical force, a critical catalyzer for peace and security in Africa, drawing from what we do, because inherently we do it all the time. We negotiate all the time, we mediate all the time, even at the village level. And I think that is something civil society would be able to do, because again, like I say, the proximity to these communities, to groups within society, is an area where civil society has excelled very well in. When we look at the conversation for this month, which is about the surrender of the weapons and amnesty, again, you see civil society, as my colleague Augustine has just talked about, the disarmament effort, whether it be at domestic level, at community level, at regional level, at the heart of it is people and structures of society. Civil society plays in that space of people and structures of society. So again, if we tapped into civil society and that trust mechanism they have with community, then you'd see greater effort at disarmament, even if it will be at a very domestic level. You look at aspects to do with sensitization and awareness raising, even within the language that communities understand, because again, one of the barriers to surrender sometimes is language. When language is couched in very securitized manner, when it is, amnesty is granted in a very securitized approach, communities shy away. Communities feel we are going to be held accountable in a very negative manner. So we are unlikely to surrender. But with civil society, you have an opportunity to break down that language to a language of a sensitive language that appreciates the local realities, cultures, and thought processes of these communities, which in return would get more communities interested in the surrender of and voluntary surrender of weapons. The other critical factor to look at in this discussion of amnesty is shifting the culture and narratives around weapon ownership and acquisition. Again, this is steeped in a lot of cultural dynamics, a lot of traditional issues, a lot of identity questions arise in terms of weapon use, weapons ownership. Who is best placed to say this? On an everyday basis, a woman is talking about culture. A youth is talking about a cultural shift. So centering these people, centering civil society in this discussion, then you'd see a cumulative outcome of shifting the narratives about weapons. Why do we need weapons? Why do we own them? What is the identity challenge with our situation with ownership of weapons? And these are conversations that need to be had if people are going to surrender the weapon, because if ownership is so close to the heart of a community, if it's so important to the identity, then surrender is compromised. But yet at the heart of that are structures of civil society that navigate the question of identity all the time with these communities. Of course, there's the question of accountability, which my colleagues have also talked about, and the need to hold both government and communities accountable for surrender and good practices around amnesty. And that civil society has distinguished itself over the years as being able to hold structures of government and society accountable, especially in the governance realm. So again, these are skills that can be utilized very effectively to be able to enhance the whole question of accountable surrender and amnesty and granting of amnesty. And of course, most importantly is also the question of prevention discourse, because at the heart of peace and security must be the question of prevention. How do we prevent it from happening in the first place? And this is something that civil society, again, has distinguished itself. Lots of development partners funding and supporting work around prevention of conflict and violence. And if this is brought center stage or central to the question of silencing the gun, I believe then would get more sustainable effort in Africa. But for us to be able to get civil society working, we as Africa, we as people that are concerned about illegal weapons and guns in Africa, we need to address some questions. We need to address the need to drive a national appreciation or regional appreciation of the role of civil society in the first place. We recognize a lot of time the role of women, the role of civil society, the role of media is either misunderstood, misplaced, or not appreciated at all. So we do need to begin to ask ourselves, how do we rev up that role and that uptake of that role, because we are saying it's central to building legitimate processes in the community. We do need to also address the question of the gaps in capturing the contribution of civil society in the surrender processes, in amnesty, in awareness raising, in silencing the gun, in disarmament effort. A lot of effort is being put by civil society, but it's not been captured. And the minute contribution or their contribution is not captured, then there's the assumption that they are not playing a role. There is the assumption that not much effort is coming from that quarter. So we do need to look at what are the tools, what are the approaches we can use to capture this contribution that sometimes is not quantitative, that will not be counted in numbers of the guns that are surrendered, but maybe counted in the qualitative nature of shifting a discourse of a community. So how do we capture that contribution? There are issues to do with being able to grow the identity and the role of civil society to sit at the right spaces of making decisions. You will notice at the present moment, a lot of the work of civil society is very grassroots. but could do more if it was placed in the right spaces of decision-making. Just like with the case of women, peace and security, the biggest barrier to the contribution of women is participation. So if there's a barrier to participating in the right spaces of decision-making, of shaping policy, then the contribution remains mundane, the contribution remains unaccounted for. And of course, we do need, as Africa, to begin asking ourselves, how do we invest in civil society institutions? A lot of the investment in civil society, unfortunately, will be donor-driven. Is it time for Africa to begin asking itself, for East Africa, for Kenya to begin asking, how do we invest more in local philanthropy to grow our own civil society institutions and agenda? Because unless we are growing the agenda ourselves and the institutions ourselves, then we are unlikely to achieve what we want. And even if we achieve it, it might not speak the language of Africa. So how do we invest in these platforms? How do we popularize this African ownership of philanthropy so that civil society is also owned and funded and invested into by Africa itself? It's a very, very, very important discussion to have. Now, as we speak of this particular month and recognizing the role that civil society can play, as I reflect further, I feel that we do need to counter the barriers and stereotypes that make it hard for civil society, and particularly here lifting the bar on women, their participation in peace and security, particularly because we feel A, peace is very masculine, not the place for women, and B, security must be securitized, and therefore not for non-state actors. So we do need to counter these barriers. We do need to ask ourselves, is there a role, and there must be a role, to make peace less masculine, to make security intervention less securitized, so that they're not coming across as only the purview of the state, but also opening the platform for other actors, because safety and security can and should be supported by all actors. There is the question, of course, of inclusion of women, because gender dividends consolidate peace. If we don't include women, if we don't include a civil society, then we do not reap much in terms of the dividends of peace and security. And that is something we do need to keep recognizing. We do need to recognize, and in this particular month, begin to reflect on the influence, like we said, civil society has on shaping cultures and dynamics of community. A lot of culture is being shaped by young people now. A lot of culture is being shaped by civil society, not by the governments, for example. So how do we take these natural attributes of being able to shape a culture, to catalyze action, and make it possible for it to be of good when it comes to peace and security? It's also about the fact that they're able to mobilize a lot of social capital to sustain peace. And so in this month, our hope would be that we are able to build and capitalize on the social capital and momentum that civil society brings. And with that, we are able to then, of course, change the dynamics of peace and security and in Africa. And as I come towards the close, it's also the question, I think it is Madam Amina who started by saying about changing values. If Africa is going to overcome the issue of guns and violence, we have to navigate the question of values. What are the new and who are the new and emerging custodians of values? What are the new parameters and dynamics around values in our communities? And who is best placed to actually address this issue? You will find at the heart of that is civil society, because like again, as I said before, their ability to influence, their ability to shift dynamics of culture are so important. So if we had civil society playing a bigger role in changing the values, normative values around violence, guns and weapons in Africa, I think would be able to win the war in terms of silencing the guns in Africa. But there's a question and there's a challenge. The legitimacy of civil society, legitimacy of women, legitimacy of youth. There are varying degrees of legitimacy. And in a lot of cases, we have not provided the right space, the right table to build the legitimacy and acceptance that civil society can play a role. There are varying extents of agency where you find, even in terms of geographies, the civil society actors in the urban centers may have more access, more ability than civil society actors like in my friend Augustine's community. So you will find then in that case, yet that community, the civil society actors there are likely to be the ones that are faced on a day-to-day basis with the challenge of arms. So how do we build and fortify the agency of civil society? How do we count their contribution? But most importantly, how do we build collaboration for delivery between civil society and government? Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to say, I hope that you are summing up.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Jacqueline Bogo, for that insightful presentation, of which you've indicated the critical role and the linkages of the CSOs in addressing peace and security matters, and also their proximity to the grassroots and local communities, and their ability to influence at that level, and why we need at this particular moment as Africans to start thinking of investing and putting more investments in our own civil societies that can control that agenda, and also involving, filling in the gaps in policies, and so that they can be in a position to negotiate. I think those are very insightful and very rich ideas. Now we go to our last presenter, Mr. Geoffrey Duke, who is the director of South Sudan Action Network on Small Arms. Sorry that we are truly running out of time, and we hope that the session of because we were here to listen to this presentation. Let's first listen to the presentation, then we'll make a decision towards that. I see you are raising your hand. And unmute.
Thank you, moderator. I'm sorry, my brother Geoffrey Duke, but I just wanted to say something after what Madam Jackie Mboko has said. Thank you very much, Jackie, for that wonderful presentation. And what I wanted to say is that it's a very big challenge to us as the civil society. And we realized that I wish I could listen to you more and more in a discussion, because as a CSO, it opens my mind in so many things that we need to do. And what I wanted to say is this, because ECOSOCC is the umbrella of the CSOs continentally. And we have national chapters all over the member state countries. What we are discussing today is just one of the activities of the clusters of the ECOSOCC, and we have 10 of them. But I would request you, and I'm going to request John, our moderator today, who is the coordinator of the national chapter, to see how we can engage with you further in terms of building capacities of the CSOs. And I think the Secretariat of ECOSOCC is listening. This is a discussion that we'd like to encourage in all the national chapters in the whole continent, because we really have to invest in CSOs. We have a role to play. Government alone will not be able to take this continent to the next level. So I would really request John and the leadership of the national chapter at some level to engage with you and to see where you can have more forums like this to build capacities of CSOs to make them understand. And I will also take this to the Secretariat of ECOSOCC, because this is a very important program for us. As ECOSOCC, what is important for us is strengthening the capacities of CSOs, so that we can see how this can be multiplied in various countries, and see that CSOs become a force, and they are not just organizations that you easily dismiss. Government needs us, and we also need them, and the citizens of Africa needs us. So I think this is very critical. So at some point we will look for you. So I thank you very much again for this wonderful presentation, and I know you had a lot in your mind to say, and we get a forum for that. So thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you so much, Pio, and I want to believe that that's well received, and we shall pursue from where you've left. So at this moment, I welcome Mr. Geoffrey Duke to make his submission. Welcome, Bwana Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Presiding Officer and all protocol observed. Greetings to all of you from South Sudan. And it's an honor to be included in this continental dialogue on silencing the gun. South Sudan, as many of you are aware, is awash with small arms and light weapons. Weapons which we do not make here. They all come from abroad, which includes the neighboring countries. Therefore, it is important to appreciate that efforts in each and every country to control small arms and light weapons will contribute to also controlling arms in South Sudan. Now, knowing that small arms and light weapons also are the weapons of mass destruction for Africa, and as a matter of figures, if you look at the number of people who have died from small arms vis-a-vis the victims of COVID-19, you could easily find out that more people have perished from small arms and light weapons. Therefore, that underscores the urgency to address the issue of proliferation of small arms and light weapons. Now, civil society in South Sudan have engaged with government, international organizations, churches, and traditional authorities, and the youth in all sorts of efforts to address the issue of illicit, not only illicit arms, but generally the misuse of arms in South Sudan. From fostering dialogues on disarmament to demilitarizing the mines, and to offering alternative livelihood to youth so that they focus on productive activities other than engaging in arms misuse. All these small efforts civil society are carrying across South Sudan. But what I would like to stress at the outset is that we should look at the problem of arms, not only those that we call illicit, because ultimately almost every weapon that we see and call illicit begin their path as legal weapons in government stockpiles. And the misuse of arms by civilians is as problematic as the use of arms, the misuse of arms by members of the organized forces. So let us not lose the sight and only focus on illicit weapons, because misuse of arms by members of organized forces can generate the demand for communities to arm themselves, to protect themselves against, undisciplined, or rather indisciplined officers. And this is not to generalize that, members of organized forces are generally the causes of insecurity, but looking around and across Africa, we know that there's a wide range of government operatives who use legal firearms to engage in activities that are illegal and causes insecurity. Now, having said that, let me underscore the importance of regional approach, or rather continental approach, in addressing the issue of small arms and light weapons. We know that a lost gun in South Sudan or in Somalia can end up in Lesotho or Timbuktu. Like Sophie from RECSA mentioned, the issue of marking. How can we make sure that we mark our firearms such that when they make their way to a neighboring country, it can be identified and traced back. That will also deter members of organized forces who engage in selling their firearms to civilians. We also have documented cases of legal firearms in the day, and at night they become illegal by way of members of organized forces hiring the guns to criminals that we see are found in crime scenes. So it's important that we address the issue of the security of government stockpiles, such that arms in the custody of governments do not easily get out and back to communities and used in crimes. The other element is, how do we make the misuse of arms costly? Because we have seen people misuse firearms, both civilians and members of organized forces, and get away with it. If it becomes, if that culture of impunity is prevalent, it encourages other people to also acquire and misuse their firearms. But if it is costly, someone knows that if they get engaged in misuse of firearms, that it's going, the government will be after them, and justice will be served. It deters people from acquisition and misuse of firearms. That underscores the importance of addressing, the issue of justice and the lack of it that contributes to illegal possession of small arms. The other point I would like to make is that of insecurity, as underscored by the speaker from Somalia, saying that citizens are engaged in acquisition of arms largely because they feel unsafe. In the absence of inadequate security provided by the state, civilians find it necessary for themselves to arm and defend themselves and their communities. Now, this means that it is incumbent upon governments of Africa to ensure that they make deliberate efforts to provide adequate security, so that citizens do not see the need to acquire killing instruments to defend themselves and the communities. To make it precise, on particularly the issue of this Amnesty Month, I would like to stress the point of, security of the arms that we recover from these campaigns. Within a month, we can recover, thousands of arms. But if we do not keep count of what happens with these arms that are collected, different states, different approaches, some of these arms end up also getting back to communities. So I'd like to stress the importance of destruction and proper disposal of firearms that are collected from communities, because in an example in South Sudan, we have seen arms collected in civilian disarmament campaigns spilling back to communities and causing scary death tolls. I would like to also stress the linkages that we need to establish between arms control and other aspects of community security, which includes security sector reform. If we instill discipline among our forces, there is adequate oversight and accountability in our organized forces. It becomes, the security of arms become tighter, and the discipline of our organized forces becomes enhanced, and communities cooperate more with members of organized forces. Instead of fearing security agents, they cooperate, therefore enhancing security and reducing the demand for firearms. And lastly, I would like to mention that I think it's important that we leave no country behind when we try to silence the guns. Therefore, let's cooperate and focus on where the guns are causing the most carnages in like underscored by Mr. Chair, that the major problem is in conflict zones like my country and DRC and others. So standing in solidarity to address the root causes of conflicts needs to be at the heart of efforts of removing arms, because even if we remove arms, it doesn't take a lot to rearm as long as the demand exists. So continental approaches needs to need to narrow down the focus also on the drivers of conflict across Africa. I would actually like to think that the month is insufficient in terms of this particular effort. If possible, let's actually push for like 6 months or 1 year of action to net a good number of firearms across Africa. In a month, it's practically it's impossible to make a lot of efforts given the level of armament in Africa. So, Mr. Chair, through the ECOSOCC, if we can pass this information forward, that we think that it needs to be a whole year of action, or rather at least 6 months of action, and then taking steps, and then continuing, because Africa is awash with small arms and requires more than 1 month of action. I would like to stop there. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Chair, and all protocol observed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Duke, for that wonderful presentation. Basically, you've brought a lot of insights towards what kind of actions need to be undertaken so that we do sufficient action. You reminded me that when you look at the Republic of South Africa, from 2019, they declared a 6 months amnesty towards the surrender of small arms and light weapons. Therefore, I want to believe that those efforts and suggestions that you are making already, some member countries saw the need of extending the time and not limiting it just 1 month, so that they can do a bigger collection and surrender and collection of illicit arms and that are within the civilian domains. Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, panelists and participants, at this moment, I've received a request by members of Djibouti through their ECOSOCC national chairperson, Mr. Mohamed Adan, who has just requested 3 minutes to give to make some submissions on the position of Djibouti, and then now from there we get into the preliminary. I want to believe that I've been granted, and therefore, Mr. Adan, Mohamed Aden, the floor is yours. Welcome, sir.
Je voudrais soulever un point qui est important et qu'on a très souvent tendance à oublier, c'est la conception traditionnelle que les sociétés ont sur les armes, surtout en milieu rural. Par exemple, Et là, je vais parler d'un cas particulier, surtout en Afrique de l'Est. Ce sont les nomades et surtout les éleveurs de chameaux. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Vous m'entendez?
Yes, yes, you are on. We can hear you. And for those who will need the translation services, please, you are reminded that you can access that service by clicking at the icon on translation, then choose your preference language. Thank you. Continue, Mr. Mohamed.
Ça, c'est un point important parce que très souvent, si on ne comprend pas ça, et c'est peut-être, je m'adresserai particulièrement à notre président intérimaire, Monsieur Denise, c'est peut-être ça qui crée, par exemple, des incompréhensions, par exemple, entre Kenya et Somalie. Les Kenyans, très souvent, qui sont des gens très pacifiques, ont du mal à comprendre les Somalis. Parce que le problème, c'est que les gens qui ont des chameaux ont une mentalité particulière. Pourquoi une mentalité particulière? Et que représente le fusil dans la société nomade, Somalie ou Afar, c'est ce que je connais le mieux. Le fusil, bien sûr, c'est une arme de destruction, mais pour le nomade, c'est un prolongement de la virilité de l'homme. L'arme, le fusil, sert à se défendre, à montrer le prestige de son clan lorsqu'il y a des razzias ou lorsqu'on fait des rapts de troupeaux. Et dans la société nomade somalie, par exemple, que je connais le mieux, un homme sans fusil, c'est comme une femme. Il n'a pas de virilité. Donc le fusil, il a vraiment un rôle important. C'est un peu le prolongement de l'homme. Et même, lorsqu'on parle, par exemple, il y a un poème en Somalie qui dit « On ne disait pas beaucoup de bien d'un homme dans l'autre monde, c'est-à-dire après la mort dans l'autre monde, d'un homme qui n'a ni chameau ni fusil. » Ça veut dire que même Dieu, si on suit un peu ce poème, même Dieu n'a pas de considération pour un homme qui ne possède ni chameau ni fusil. Donc vous voyez la profondeur, l'arme, elle n'est pas seulement considérée comme un objet de destruction, mais un peu comme un symbole de virilité. Un homme, comme je vous l'ai dit, un homme sans fusil, c'est un homme désarmé, ce n'est pas un homme. Les seuls qui ne peuvent pas porter des armes, par exemple, dans la société traditionnelle somalie, ce sont les femmes et les religieux. Les religieux et les femmes, on les traite un peu à part. Et lorsqu'on vient dans un campement nomade, on dit qu'est-ce qui est là? Est-ce qu'il y a des hommes? Et traditionnellement, on répond non, il n'y a que des hommes et des religieux. Donc le religieux qui n'est pas capable de prendre un fusil et de se battre, il n'est pas considéré tout à fait comme un homme. Donc ça va très loin. Donc si on ne saisit pas ces mentalités nomades, on ne le comprend pas. Cette conception nomade, par exemple des armes, on passe à côté de beaucoup de choses. Et je voulais intervenir pour souligner ce point-là. Et donc, il faut changer un peu ces mentalités. Bon, je ne veux pas m'étendre plus. Je vous remercie, mais c'était un point important, surtout en Afrique de l'Est, où il y a tellement de conflits, en Somalie, en Érythrée, le Yémen de l'autre côté aussi, qui n'est pas loin de chez nous. Je vous remercie. Hein.
Yeah, thank you.
Voilà.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohamed Adan, the National Coordinator, ECOSOCC Djibouti, for bringing that perspective of the cultural socialization of our brothers and sisters within the Somali country and how Adan is seen. And therefore, the program of disarmament and the Amnesty Month should look at incorporating programs that are going to disarm the mind of the socialization that has taken root within these communities. Now, thank you so much. Now we get into the session, plenary session. We have some questions that have been raised. So I'm going to read the questions and then I'll ask the panelists and to jump in and look into and try to answer them. So I want to believe maybe let me go through about 4 questions. So let me read them, and then you could note them down. And then from there, we move forward. Yes, Pio. And you.
Oh, thank you, Moderator, for giving me time to say something. But I just wanted to react to what my brother Mohamed Aden said. We know, Mohamed, that as Madam Jackie said, it's culture among some people to keep guns. There is no problem with that, but as long as you don't use that gun to kill somebody or to kill your neighbor or to kill, we all have, even in our houses, we have something like a panga or something for your own self-defense. But the problem now, when you use that to start killing, each other and creating violence and causing instability, that is where the problem is. But I agree there are issues that need to be looked in terms of culture, just like the moderator says. But then, how do you make sure that it is a cultural issue that it does not disrespect the human rights of somebody else? Thank you, moderator.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, because basically, what thank you, Manapio, for adding that. And now I was about to go about the questions that have been forwarded. There are about 4 questions, so I'd want to sum them up, give them, and then from there now we move forward. One of the questions is asking about are there programs which facilitate reintegration and coexistence of maybe guerrilla fighters after the surrender and collection of the weapons? Once, if it's an armed group and has done surrender and the collection and has done surrender and their arms have been collected, are there programs to undertake reintegration? Then the other question is, are there plans for regional groupings within the Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa regions to transform themselves into maybe to have legal mandates to intervene militarily in any armed conflicts? Yeah. Such as maybe of what's happening within the ECOWAS region in West Africa. And then the third one is, to what extent are the judgments of African Union Court of Appeal are, this one is out of our area of discussion. Okay, the other one is, the third one we can have it as, what is one of the main causes, what are the main causes of proliferation of illicit arms and light weapons that if dealt with, then the issue will have been capped. So we can start. Maybe I can say that maybe RECSA, because I can see RECSA is represented, and then the rest can add. They can look at what are the causes of proliferation of illicit arms and all weapons and light weapons, and if they're dealt with, then that one issue will have been done with. And then maybe Madam Jackie can try to see in terms of maybe okay, maybe now the others can look at what are the plans of regional groups, the Eastern, Central, and maybe the Southern African to undertake a military intervention.
Hello.
Yes, Madam Patricia.
I'll attempt to answer the question of the main cause of illicit small arms and light weapons within the region.
Yes,
from
proliferation.
From RECSA's perception.
Yeah.
And you are looking at the work that we have done within the region. We feel that the main cause of this illicit flows of small arms in the region, one, it's because of the weak and unharmonized laws, that you'll find one country has laws that are very punitive, and the next country, the laws are not punitive enough to punish crime. So once we have harmonized laws across the region, at least with punitive measures, people will be afraid to get into the trade of illicit small arms and light weapons. Also, there's inadequate capacity to have safe storage of these arms. And you'll find that most of these arms might be stolen from government stores. And these government stores, the storage is not adequate enough to safeguard the firearms and weapons. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we still have the two other programs that facilitate reintegration and coexistence of once someone, maybe Augustine, because you've seen when they do surrender, there are programs of reintegration and yeah, there are programs of reintegration once surrender of small arms and light weapons has been adopted. Thank you. Augustine, are you there?
Okay, can you come back again?
Yeah, I'm asking, one of the questions has come is that are there programs that facilitate reintegration of once people have surrendered their arms? Are there programs of reintegration? For instance, in the case of Morocco, what happens for those after communities surrendered their arms, or after groups surrendered their arms? Are there programs of reintegration?
Yeah, I think I'll use the context of Uganda, and which is more elaborate and comprehensive. I think the reason, the strategy that was put in place to carry out disarmament across Karamoja region was premised on the fact that once communities have handed in arms voluntarily or are forcefully disarmed, then the vacuum that is created, because of course the arms were being useful to them because of the threat to their livelihood and lives. So ordinarily the state stepped in to provide security for the people, I think as a priority need. The second need was to create alternatives and empower them to be able to basically take up and adapt to new forms of livelihoods. I think if you go to Karamoja today, the investment that the government of Uganda has made in terms of agriculture and getting all the dropouts from violence to be able to engage in productive activities is really huge. There is a whole department of there's a whole ministry of Karamoja Affairs that focuses on investments on water, investments on agriculture, supporting the youth who actually have been disarmed so that they have a purpose to be able to make meaningful contributions in the society. So the element of reintegrating these people into the society and also giving them a sense of purpose through alternative means of living was part and parcel of the strategy that the government of Uganda employed. And in the case of Kenya, for instance, I think most of those who have had to return their arms have had to be appreciated as reformed persons, and who are then supported by the society and local institutions and government to be able to maintain that direction of being peaceful and even being transformed into champions for peace building and conflict management at the local level, being able to be peace committees and driving the agenda of peace in the same space that they were being used as agents of violence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain, for that. And maybe, is there any other panelists who would want to add something towards the questions that were raised? Please feel free to go on.
Yes, I'd like to add that within the Kenyan side, there's been what we call the peace dividends, that Kenya was able to construct certain peace dividends within the region to be able to cater for some of the young people who are actually giving out their arms. So the key thing is peace dividends, which are likely to support those who are disarmed and those who are ready to be reintegrated into the society. There are also other activities that are planned. I don't know if you know about the Tekla Lorupe Foundation that has activities on sports for peace, and several others that are being lined up within the Karamoja cluster. We call it the Karamoja cluster, that takes care of the borderline area. So the activities that are there are used to engage young people, to enable them actually give up arms and get into meaningful participation in terms of economic empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan, for that additional. And there's one question that has been left untouched, and it is the question of whether the regional blocks within the Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa, maybe we can talk of the Eastern Africa, have ambition like the ECOSOCC into future, maybe to intervene militarily in situations that desire intervention. Is there anyone who can go into that? Yes, Pio.
Thank you, Moderator. I don't know whether there are any initiatives at the regional level, but I remember early in the year when I attended a closed-door meeting by the leaders of the heads of states and president of Africa during the AU meeting. And that issue came up very strongly. And I think President recommended, and also President Museveni of Uganda recommended that it is high time that Africa should have its own force to deal with its security issues in the continent. So my understanding at that time, which was adversely supported by President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. So I think my understanding at that point is that probably the leaders are now thinking of coming up with the intervention forces when there are issues in various member countries. Remember, this became a very big issue during the genocide in Rwanda, where there was a strong feeling that, look, there should have been a way, a mechanism of the regional, forces coming together to intervene when there are crises. But to answer that question, I really don't know whether certain regional organizations already have that kind of mechanism in place. But if I remember well, the discussion by the president of the head of states, it was that it is high time that we come up with that kind of force so that we don't wait for a problem to escalate.
Okay, thank you so much, Pio, for that intervention. And I want to believe that that brings us to the end of the panel, the presentation, and also the plenary sessions. Now we welcome, and we are really grateful for all that the support the panelists and the participants you have given to this session, to this e-Caravan of the East African region. And now we welcome the Secretariat of ECOSOCC to give us the closing remarks. Welcome, ECOSOCC Secretariat.
I think in the absence of the Secretariat, we should now ask the chairman of the Peace and Security to wrap it up in case we don't have anybody from the Secretariat to make a closing remark.
Okay. Thank you very much, dear panelists, and also thank you to all the participants, to Presiding Officer, and to their moderator. we have learned a lot with regards to the silencing the gun process and the amnesty month in East Africa. So we want to ensure you that all your recommendation and your input has been taken into account and will be included in a policy document that will be submitted to the head of state and government and also to the Peace and Security Council. The Caravan of Peace continue. It will go to the southern part of Africa, and we will have a webinar on Friday with regards to the perspectives of the amnesty month in the southern region of Africa. And then next week it will be the turn of West Africa, in which the e-Caravan will cross West African countries. So with regards to the East Africa, we have been blessed. We have received a lot of input from our panelists, and we want to thank them once again for the good job that they have done and the good recommendations, in which as I was saying, it will be included to the policy document, and we will make sure that those recommendations that you have proposed to African Union ECOSOCC will be implemented on the continental level and also on each African Union member state country. So we will do a follow-up with the Peace and Security Council of the African Union and also with the head of state and government to always remind them of what we have proposed in this panelists, in this webinar, and what we must take a step forward in order to make sure that those recommendations are taken into account. Especially, I wanted to come back with regards to the question that was asked with regards to the curriculum of in which we have to integrate it in our schools from primary to university, so that we make sure that the culture of peace is inculcated in the grassroots level and also in the childhood level. So we will be your spokesperson in order to advocate to the Peace and Security Council and also to the head of state and government for us to make sure that this peace culture, peace education is included into the schools, so that our children can learn, can have that culture of peace, and from the childhood, from the primary school until the university. So I want to thank you once again for this good caravan of this good webinar, and also the actions that each national chapter of ECOSOCC has done in their respective countries in order to popularize and also to make sure that people own the amnesty month and the surrender of illicit and small arms and light weapons, because that is the aim. We want people to own that process of peace in Africa, and is not only something that belong to the government, but we must own it as citizens of Africa, and we must make sure that all the policies that are put into place are effectively implemented. And as ECOSOCC, we will make sure that it's implemented on countries level, on regional levels, and also on continental level. I thank you once again, moderator.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair, Peace and Security. Thank you, Presiding Officer. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the panelists and the participants. We are truly grateful, though the time spilled over, by what I want to believe that the time spilled over for a good cause and a good reason. So on that note, I thank you all, and Mwaseighe kwaherini sana from East Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pio.
Thank you, Chairman. How are you?
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Mohamed Musse. Thank you, Mohamed. And thank you, Susan. Thank you also to our interpreters. They have done a good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the Secretariat as well.
Interpreters as well. Thank you, Moderator John.
Thank you so much.